Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this episode is Anthony DeBundo. BJ is in Las Vegas visiting his family, so we gave him the weekend off, but he did give us his underdog, and that underdog parlay we're going to give out at the end of the show is a whopper, 179 to 1, so be sure to stay tuned as we try to make amends for not having one for the midweek. But before we get to that and go through all 10 Premier League matches, talk about the Bundesliga and Serie A a little bit, a reminder that Wondergoal is proudly presented by Bet365, North Carolina's newest sports book, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day that they power up odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky to play. And if you or anyone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. T's, C's, and restrictions apply. All right, Anthony. We are recording this on Wednesday. Arsenal and Manchester City have held serve in their games as big favorites. Liverpool is playing on Thursday against Sheffield United. We're going to operate under the assumption that Liverpool wins. Sheffield United scores first, of course, to cash our bets that we gave out last week. But Liverpool ends up winning, so we'll try to do our best, like operating under that assumption. It doesn't really change all that much, but we'll start with the three matches with title race implications, and we'll start with that Liverpool match coming your way at Manchester United at the Theatre of Dreams, Old Trafford, where United is a plus 350 home dog. Liverpool minus 150. The draw is 3-1. The first thing I want to ask you is, have these two teams played 11 times this season? It feels that way, right?
So it's only the third.
But it does. How many times? It feels like they played
Feels
so
like a
many
lot
times.
more, yeah. Well, one was just 2 weeks ago, so it's kind of
Right.
fresh in our minds, and we do have a pretty good example of like, oh, what was the market for that match? Liverpool closed minus 115. Now they're all the way up at minus 150. There's no meaningful difference in either team since then. Connor Bradley may start over Joe Gomez, but I went through the lineups, and it was Diaz, Nunez, Salah. It was McAllister, Endo, and Szoboszlai. It was Kwanzaa with Van Dijk. It was Kelleher in goal. And then for United, it was, largely the same lineup. Now, Martinez picks up an injury in a cameo against Brentford, but he hadn't been playing anyway. And Ten Hag did say, now we haven't seen them play Chelsea yet either, but Ten Hag did say that Lindelof may be out, but Varane and Jones and Maguire are fit right now. So they're not at a total loss at center back with the injury to Martinez and the injury to Lindelof. So they have, two, at least going to have probably two capable center backs. And Luke Shaw's been out a while now. So, what is the difference between that match and 2 weeks ago at the Theatre of Dreams? Because, I know that the narrative post-match was that Liverpool let it slip because United scored late on and then scored late on in extra time to win it. But on the flow of chances, I didn't think Liverpool defended well at all. So, the total expected goals in the match, United was close to 4. If you just take out extra time, United was close to 3. 28 shots to 25. Do I think United can stop Liverpool? No. But the biggest weakness that I think Liverpool has shown defensively in the last few weeks has been on their right side. And so it is a little concerning to see United have so much success there, Brighton have so much success there, attacking that same spot. And now it's like, oh yeah, Marcus Rashford, very capable, going to play again. How does he match up with this Liverpool defense? I think there's paths to success. So I like the over 3.5. Even money is good. And I'm going to talk to this match a little bit later. If it gets to a flat +1, I like United +1 as well. It's getting close to it now, and it's crazy to say that I'm going to advocate to bet for Man United. I get it. They just looked embarrassingly bad at Brentford, and I don't think their defense is going to look great against Chelsea. But come Sunday, back home, it's still a dangerous team on the break. I mean, Garnacho, Fernandez, and Rashford all put up 4+ shots in that game against Liverpool. They were not really stopped. McTominay free runs into the penalty area the whole match.
Yeah, I actually am in agreement with you here as well. I think United makes a good bet on the money line. I think that this game has a really wide range of outcomes, which is going to be the opposite of the game we'll talk about next. Because I think that either team can come back, either team can blow a lead here. I think you could see an early goal, flip this game. I think that the way United will approach it too is going to be really interesting. They want desperately, of course, to not let Liverpool win the title. That would be 2 trophies that they've basically taken out of their pocket. It should be a really raucous atmosphere no matter what happens with United and Chelsea. I don't think that any Man United fan would be mad if Ten Hag literally sat everybody against Chelsea on Thursday and just kept everyone fresh for this one. So barring any unforeseen injuries, etc., in that Chelsea match on Thursday, I agree with you. I think that the market's moving a little bit too much here, and we'll see what happens with Liverpool too. Like, I mean, if they ship 5 past Sheffield United and United struggles with Chelsea, we could see this line move even more. So just
Yeah.
keep your eye out on that too.
I haven't bet anything as of now, but again, like I project 3.66 goals.
Yeah.
So at 3.5, like it is a little short if you're at even money. And I think, uh, the other thing, Liverpool's probably at the top of the market right now, right? This is where everybody's doing this title thing. They're now the clear favorite to win the title. Will they drop points? This is their toughest match left, as far as I'm concerned, market wise. They are still going to host Tottenham, go to Villa. We'll see what Villa looks like health wise then. But this, for me, is their toughest match left. So
Yeah.
this
It's
is a good
it's
time to
like
pick them off.
it's more tricky than tough, right? Does that make sense to you? Like it's
Well,
like
it's a rivalry. Like they'll go to
yeah,
Everton too. We would never say that's the
yeah,
toughest matchup, but
right. This one just feels like it's pretty tricky. Okay. So like I said, that game I think can have go in a million different directions.
and United likes playing the style that Liverpool introduces
Yeah.
teams to play.
Yep. Yeah.
That's what they're
No.
good. That's the only thing they can do. Really
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
can't
style through
defend. I
fights
mean,
kind of thing.
Liverpool could score, like you said, they could score 3 or 4 and run away with this, but
Mhm.
I think United's worth a shot.
Okay. Palace and City, I think, will look very, very different. So Liverpool and United is on Sunday. This Palace City game will get the weekend started 7:30 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday. Palace is 7-1 at Selhurst Park. City traveling as a -275 uh, favorite, and then the draw is +375 here. City with I thought a really composed, impressive showing. Obviously, Phil Foden had a hat trick. I don't need to get into him being amazing. Um, I actually like a couple different ways to bet this. They're very heavily correlated. The under at 2.5 +120, and I also think City has an exact score line. City 1-0 at +750. A couple reasons here. One, we're getting back into like fixtures piling up for City, Champions League looming, all that. Um, Two, like this is the type of game where yeah, like, the goal difference will matter, but I don't think City will feel all that comfortable in this environment compared to what they were even against Aston Villa, who's a much better team than Crystal Palace. But uh, Palace is so tough, will be so tough to break down. That they'll be at home in front of a crazy crowd, and I think getting out of Selhurst Park in one piece with 3 points is all that's going to matter to Pep, and we've kind of seen him manage already, like the Arsenal game, not to make the big mistake, to squander their title hopes, and I think we could see a similar approach here. Of course, the caveat being they need to get the goal, but I think that this thing could be really, really ugly, like one of those classic City matches where you turn it on, you watch it for 15 minutes, you're just like, this is really a tough watch. As a neutral. So Palace has been pretty non-existent since Glasner took over, not generating all that much. And I don't think that they're going to be the ones pushing the pace here, and I don't really think City's going to want to do it either. Pretty low event game is what I'm thinking here. Am I on the right track?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I have City at minus 1.23, just pure raw numbers. But like, who's going to play? They sit Haaland and De Bruyne today. They play Foden. He gets a hat trick. They have Real Madrid coming up on Tuesday. So now do they rest Foden and play Haaland and De Bruyne? Like, I think there's like a world where City again kind of just rotates through so that everybody gets a game, but not too many games, because they know, and Pep is even complaining to the media about it, like, hey, look at all these games we're playing. Real Madrid gets 9 days off. We have to play 3 matches. And if you had to pick out of this run, like, okay, you host Arsenal, you host Villa, you're hosting Real Madrid, or they go to Real Madrid. The one match in the middle that kind of sticks out is like, oh yeah, we also have a tricky away day to Selhurst, a Palace team. Since Glasner took over, you talked about it. They haven't created much. The 2 games they did, Burnley at home when they got a red card, Burnley got a red. Luton at home, which like, okay, yeah, Luton. And then their opponents, they played 6 matches under Glasner. They played Everton, Burnley, Forest, Bournemouth, Luton, and Spurs. And the Spurs match, they were pretty well beaten in the second half. So it has not been exactly a murderer's row of opponents that Palace has played since Glasner took over, and the numbers haven't really looked that encouraging. They could get Elise back, which, we've talked about Eze and Elise being dangerous. And honestly, like, City will have nightmares. If they don't win this title, there's always one result that you point to and you say, how did that happen? City was up 2-0 on Palace. Eze and Elise came on in the second half, and like the last 15 minutes, they had a bad giveaway, gave away a pen, and then City tied 2-2, dropped 2 points right around the Christmas period. Those will be the 2 points for me that will always stick out this year for them, if they end up not winning this title, because that was the match. So does that make them more focused? I don't know. But yeah, I agree. I think that like City has had defensive issues at times away from home, but Palace offers so little threat that if you like Palace, I mean, you might as well parlay with the under, or somehow figure out a way to come up with under game states, because it's very hard to see them scoring multiple times to stay in this. So I haven't bet anything here. I lean to the under with you. I thought we were going to get a 3, and I was going to hammer the under at 2.5 plus money. It's a little bit closer to about right for me.
Yeah, I think that City, the draw early of the season, like City's had issues with this Palace team in the past. Like, even was it last season where they beat them in like that game where they went behind? I think it was like an Ederson giveaway, and then City had to like come back late, and then of course they lost to them a couple seasons ago as well.
Yeah,
So
last year was the 2-0 inside 10 minutes, and then they won
yes,
4-2. And
right, that's what it was. Yeah, so like they've just had issues with this team. So I think it's like a get ahead, shut down shop kind of situation.
yeah, they're not bad defensively, but again, like, they haven't played a lot of matches without Gahey against real teams.
Right.
That is still a concern, but I think that it's still the same spine of the team, even if their manager's different and maybe the personnel's a little different now.
That brings us to the other team involved in the title race. Arsenal's traveling as a minus 163 road favorite to Brighton, who are plus 425. The draw here is plus 280. I want to bet Brighton here. I do think, like you were talking about the market, we're at like the high water mark for Liverpool. I think we're starting to get there for Arsenal as well. I just don't think that people view Arsenal as the type of team that is just going to drop points to inferior opposition. They've obviously dominated a bunch of teams at the lower end of the table, and some like in that mid to lower blob that you like to talk about as well. But this Brighton team, for all their warts this season, and it's been poor of late, right? They've got one win in their last 4. They're not generating a lot. I think they're under 4 expected goals in those last 4 matches, like under 3.5 expected goals, and only 2 goals scored. So it looks tough, and you don't want to bring that type of offense to a game with Arsenal. But I think this just looks like a decent opportunity to buy low on Brighton. So in all likelihood, I'm going to be on the Brighton money line. I just don't. It's not my favorite of the big dogs, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, so we have seen Arsenal put up some really impressive results going forward this 2024. So since the calendar flip, basically, right? They scored 5 on Palace at home. They put 6 on West Ham and 5 on Burnley and 6 on Sheffield and 4 on Newcastle. All of these teams are bottom 5 Premier League defenses, bottom 6. Not one of those teams for me. You could argue Palace, but none of them are impressive defensive teams for me. And so, yes, you credit Arsenal for being in great form, and really the biggest difference was that Bukayo Saka's production took a step forward. He was really improved in those couple months. But now Saka's not fully fit. He didn't play at all in this match today against Luton. Martinelli is just coming back from an injury that he didn't start either match either. Jesus has been kind of relegated to this weird bench role, and it's pretty much just Odegaard that pulls the strings for this Arsenal attack right now. Havertz had a nice assist today, but it's not the fully functioning Arsenal attack, and I think their attack is overvalued. And look, I sound like a broken record. I believe in this defense. I think this defense is the best in Europe. They give up nothing to anyone at any time. They just held City under 1 XG. They held Luton to 3 total shots or 4 total shots today. Nothing for them. A Luton team that, by the way, had scored 18 straight matches. So it wasn't like, you say Luton above average attack since, most of the season. So I believe in their defense. Rice will start, I imagine, after he only played 20 minutes today. So full Arsenal strength defense going up against a Brighton defense that I think is underrated. And the market has kind of underrated this defense for a while now, because Brighton, in their last 8 matches against English teams, all competitions, 6-1-1 to the under. Yes, a lot of that has to do with Brighton's attack also falling off, which I'm going to get into. But even today at Brentford, a Brentford team that we know is dangerous in transition, that we think is fully healthy in attack. Well, they had just 5 total shots and 0.5 XG. Like, Brighton's defense was awesome today. And they've been playing Baleba more in the midfield. They've been making tactical choices to have more true midfielders on the pitch and not just turnstiles. And the attack is struggling. I mean, Pedro is back today, but his numbers are inflated. They don't have a single player averaging over 0.4 non-penalty XG per 90 in their team. It's been just kind of like, we lost Matoma, we lost March, we didn't have Pedro for a while. Ferguson didn't really take off. Like, this whole attack there's been so much rotation that I don't really trust them. And Arsenal, I don't really trust their attack right now, given their injuries and not everybody being quite right. And I think, again, like, they ran up the score on some awful, awful defenses. And Brighton is an above average defense. So under 3 again, for me, fading the goals totals. I think they're just inflated, and I'm going to bet the under 3 at even money again.
Okay, so that wraps up the title race portion of the show. I'm looking at the under at City and Palace. We're leaning that way. We both like United in one way or another, and you like the over in that one, and then the under in Arsenal Brighton. I'll probably be on the Seagulls. Okay, that brings us to Villa and Brentford. Villa laying minus 154 at home. The Bees 4-1, and the draw here is plus 280. I like Brentford here. Doesn't need too much convincing for me to bet this team, despite the problems they've had all year. But they are going up against a Villa team that has its form is just all over the place, especially defensively. 11.6 expected goals against by Understat in their last 5 matches. They've shipped 11 goals in that span. They've also just been playing this high event style for so long, and I think even at home against a Brentford team that's going to be desperate for points in any way, and a Brentford team, by the way, that is still playing better than its results would show. I think that you're getting a decent number here on the Bees, who are desperate for a win. I should say they looked really good in that United game, right? Like we think that ends up being one of the unluckier draws on the year. Then they get another draw against a 0-0 against Brighton on the midweek, which I thought was fine. They didn't really create much, but I think against the Villa defense has just been shipping chances for fun. We could see this Brentford attack come to life, and we trust their defense. So the Bees.
Yeah, well, If you want to back Brentford, the thing they do really well that Villa does poorly is set pieces. So Brentford top 5 set piece offense, Villa the worst set piece defense by XG allowed. I know Forest still has that title for goals, but XG per set piece allowed, Villa has been really poor. The thing is, they are getting a little healthier, so we don't know exactly the status. The team they rolled out today: no Watkins, no Emi Martinez, no McGinn, no Kamara, no Bailey. Like, it was rough, and they looked real bad. But they probably get Watkins back based on Emery's comments. They seemed like they held him out today because they were at City and didn't want to push him. Martinez was sick, so I'd imagine he's back by Saturday. McGinn's back from suspension, so they are getting some guys back. I'm not totally sold on their defense, though. And so if this does get to +1 at like -115, I'm going to take Brentford. I think it's funny to compare what Brentford did in attack against United, which was 3 XG,
Yeah.
8,900 box touches, against Brighton, who Brighton completely controlled the match. And yes, Brighton doesn't have the same quality of attackers out there as Man United does. Brighton had 24 shots for like 1.1 XG. There was nothing in the 6-yard. Like, they couldn't create a big chance. Again, part of Brighton's problem right now. But Brentford, being able to play both different styles gives me some encouragement. I mean, their numbers have fallen, though. So since New Year, they're -0.5 per 90 XG difference. So that's closer to like 14th, 15th than the usual. Hey, this is like a above average team. So they have fallen, but now they have Mbeumo, Wissa, and Tony all available and going. So against this defense, this Villa defense that leaves so much space in behind, it does feel like Brentford's always going to be in it with that and the set pieces. So I certainly don't disagree with going with Brentford here. Villa continue to kind of just be overall.
Speaking of which, this next match is perfect segue because I think describes Everton pretty well. Still haven't won since December 16th, but they keep getting
1-1 draws.
Anyone who's been betting the spread or draws, good for them. That's not me. They are -163 against Burnley, who are 4-1 on the money line, the 3-way line, and the draw here is +300. These odds, of course, are from our friends at Bet365. It's hard not to be anything but encouraged by the point from Everton, I think, against Newcastle. I know they get the penalty. That was their second penalty of the year. So it's not like this is a team that creates much, which that's a really weird stat just for a team that crosses as much as they do. You'd think that there'd be a little bit more chaos in the box.
A couple of handballs.
A handball, or just what happened with Dermot, like, that exact play. Like, how's that?
Yeah.
That play should be happening a lot more, you'd think, but it
hasn't. It's been in the box very much.
Yeah. It's usually across. It's usually across to Beto or
there's usually
DCL.
one guy.
Yeah, exactly. Running onto it. It's tough. But
they don't spend a lot of time there. They're just efficient usually when they get there.
Anyways, they get the point. It was, I think, a pretty big point considering the other results. That gives them a little bit of breathing room. Burnley coming off another draw against Wolves in their last match, so they are now 4 matches unbeaten, 3 draws and a win. The win came against Brentford. The draws were that Chelsea one, which was crazy, West Ham, and then Wolves. So Burnley, I should say, is they're within a shot. They've got to win this match. They've definitely got this one circled as one of the must wins if they want to even have a hope of staying up. So I wonder if they're maybe a little bit more aggressive than they've been since it looks like companies kind of put the handbrakes on lately. I think laying the -163 with Everton here is a little crazy. So
yeah,
I'd play Burnley if anything, but I'm just gonna sit back and root for the Toffees here.
Yeah, I mean, this was like -135. You could have got that. Like, maybe you could sell me on it. But this for me is the same thing as the Palace match that we watched on Monday night, like a month ago, where, okay, yeah, Everton's a home favorite. They should dominate this match. But can they actually do anything from open play? Or is their whole thing going to just be like, we're going to get some set pieces? Because they were so bad against Newcastle, I thought, from open play. They had the one chance off the post. They had the one look for DCL, but he couldn't even get a shot off in that one situation, and then it went out for a goal kick. I'm like, dude, there are so many situations where they don't really look composed in the final third, and they're lacking that quality, and everything just comes down to the set pieces again. And as a favorite, trying to win like this and get margin, which is what we have to do here since we're basically laying a goal. No, thank you. Burnley has played a little better. The markets took some money on them the last 2 weeks. I mean, they got pretty lucky against Chelsea, but then, deserve the draw against Wolves, but we're going to get to Wolves, and like the current state of Wolves is like pretty ugly. So I don't really give them a ton of credit for that. They actually closed a favorite against Wolves, but last 900 minutes, Everton has created 1.5 XG per 90. They're conceding 1.6. So they've been like a league average, and Burnley's closer to minus 0.7. So if you just do the raw numbers on that, yeah, the number's about right. Everton's laying about a goal, and I've got it like minus 182. So do I want to lay it? No, absolutely not. I think the way Everton gets to their production is just kind of really, I mean, we had this debate on Sunday, but to me, if you want to lay it, get crazy, like take some alts, hope that this is finally the game everything goes right. But like,
exactly.
Burnley doesn't even do the playing out from the back thing anymore that like Everton could theoretically force some high turnovers, which is what they're decent at. But they're not going to be able to do that. So it's going to be a lot of Burnley sitting deep, and that's just kind of been Everton's kryptonite all year.
That brings us to Fulham and Newcastle. Fulham plus 155, a slight favorite at home. Newcastle plus 170, the Straws plus 230. I got nothing here at all.
Yeah, I also don't have anything. Newcastle has certainly continued to ratchet up its attack, and I do wonder, could Fulham keep up if Newcastle's attack is firing? Because I really don't think so. But given how back and forth Fulham wants to play and how open they want the matches to be, that's just generally what they do with Silva. It's been the way for a year and a half now. Given that, it just seems like I don't really trust Newcastle's defense in the slightest to get anything stopping them from getting a ton of big chances at the other end. Newcastle they move Burn in to replace Lascelles. He plays center back against Everton. I thought they defended pretty well until the dumb penalty. So you can give them credit for that. You can upgrade them. Again, it is a lean toward Newcastle for me, but when you give up so many big chances at the other end, and these kind of matches are the perfect team to just rip you to shreds, and you're away form, you're giving up 2 XG every time. How do I bet you as a pick'em? It's really hard. So I can't. Pass.
All right, you touched on Wolves a bit. They are a slight home favorite to West Ham. They're plus 155 on the three-way line. West Ham is traveling at plus 170. Anything here, that's another one I'll pass on. I think that it's been a fun ride with Wolves, but not too much interesting here. These are two teams that, like you said, Wolves is now a team we're all pretty skeptical of, and West Ham's been there all season.
Yeah, I mean, the market is crazy with this Wolves team now because they closed as a favorite as a dog at Burnley. Villa took a ton of money 2 weeks ago. A team that the market has hated Villa for months, and the market went bananas in favor of Villa, who then won the match 2-0. The market steams hard against Wolves in the Burnley match. Burnley outplays them for large stretches of that match. Neto and Hwang Hee-chan are still both out. The whole transition beauty of the team was built around those two players plus Cunha, and they have not had them, and they've looked awful. Bellegarde should be back. He's been okay in the midfield, but the case for Wolves here is that what is the case? I mean, West Ham loses Areola, so they're not going to be as good at shot stopping now. Okay, maybe. West Ham has much better attackers on the pitch. Moyes comes in, probably just sits, lets Wolves have possession. Wolves will have most of it, but they can't do anything to break down defensive blocks. And then their defense isn't all that good either. So I kind of lean with West Ham just based on the matchup and who's available. But then the market also gives me a huge downgrade on Wolves, so there's no real value in it for me. If this got to a plus a quarter on West Ham, I would believe it or not, bet the Hammers. But this line, the difference in the quality of attackers from West Ham right now with everybody available versus Wolves with nobody available is so huge that this would be West Ham or nothing for me. That just sounded weird to say because we've been so anti them as a pod. I mean, they're still a bottom 5 defense, and they defended well against Spurs. It's just sitting absurdly deep, which I think is we're going to see more teams do this against Ange, and I think that's going to be the next tactical question that Postecoglou is going to have to solve, which we'll get into in a minute. But West Ham, as a pick 'em on the road at Wolves, feels like a correct price to me.
Okay, that brings us to Luton Town hosting Bournemouth. Luton Town is plus 280. At Kenilworth Road, Bournemouth minus 106. The draw is plus 250. The Cherries continue to be impressive. A well-earned late winner against Crystal Palace in a game that they thoroughly deserve to get all 3 points. And if you look, going right before the festive fixtures, and I brought this up in our last pod for the midweek. Like Bournemouth their underlying metrics are basically a top that would put them as a top 6 club. Like they're right there with Spurs and Brighton, Villa, better than Chelsea and United. It's been a really impressive run here still, and this is now a sustained sample size of we're looking at 14 games from the Cherries. So this is I think a team that should be carrying a little bit more weight than this number suggests. Like if you just took that statistical profile and slapped Brighton's name on top of it, instead of Bournemouth, I think this number looks a little bit different here. So I think there's still some value on the Cherries as a road favorite. Anything for you here?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, it is a little scary when the team spotted Luton 3 goals last time they played at Bournemouth. That was like the game of the year.
Yeah.
Bournemouth comes all the way back. But Luton is so down right now in terms of just what they do and do not have available. I mean, they had multiple teenagers on the bench today at Arsenal. So many of their key players are out and not coming back for this match. So Sambi Lakonga, Adebayo, Nakamba, Lockyer, Mads Anderson, even Ogbene is out too. Everyone that they rely on, just about out, besides like Carlton Mars. So the current version of Luton is a sieve, and they haven't really changed how they're playing defensively. So I agree with you. I think it's Bournemouth here. It's just hard for me to do it because I never thought I'd be laying Bournemouth as a road favorite, odds on, even though we were high on them this year. But the current state of Luton is really hard to price because they are so bad. And Arsenal stopped trying to score. They could have put up 4 or 5 if they wanted today. They just decided to pack it in the second half. Bournemouth can't really defend either in those situations. If they're with a lead, they're not great defensively. But there's just so much. Like they're healthy right now, Bournemouth, and a full strength Bournemouth team against this version of Luton. There's a lot of downside to Luton right now. I think Bournemouth's the play.
All right, here's a couple fun ones to wrap it up. The Premier League portion of the show, at least. Sheffield United 6-1 at home against Chelsea. The Blues minus 225 on the road. The draw here is plus 375. There's no way you're betting Chelsea at this number. I get there's probably a lot of people out there that are going to do it and they're going to win. They're going to lump them in on a parlay on Saturday, and they'll paste Sheffield United. But just looking at the number, I mean, this Chelsea team's shown that they could lose or draw anybody. We got to be on the blades.
I'm going to pass. Yeah. We don't know how bad it is for Sheffield either because they're dealing with a bunch of injuries too. And that's why you're seeing that Liverpool number continue to run on Thursday. And that's why, this number keeps going. But I agree with you. So Chelsea just laid a goal and a half to Burnley at home. Now they're going to be laying damn near a goal and a quarter on the road. They have not been nearly good enough defensively to warrant that price. Not nearly consistent enough in possession. Too many dumb mistakes. Too much inconsistency. So yes, it is Sheffield or nothing. But for me, it's going to be nothing. If this got to 1.5, I would bet it. I don't think it will. But if it got to 1.5, I would say that's too far. This is insane. Time to back them. Here, I think it's about right. It's inflated. I have it closer to 1, but it's not enough for me to say, yes, I want to put my money on Sheffield United here. They have gotten embarrassed at home way too many times for me to just pretend that they haven't given up. I mean, they gave up 3 to Fulham, even with a 3-1 lead last week at home. And that was their best home performance defensively in months. It was 5-6, 5-4, 5-6. Now 3, but it was Fulham. So yeah, I'm gonna pass.
Okay, and that means we wrap with Spurs and Forest. Tottenham minus 250, Forest plus 650. The draw here is plus 375. I continue to be impressed with this Forest team. In hockey, there's an expression called money on the board, which is a lot of times when a team trades a player and they go back and they play their old team. They put money on the board, saying, I'll put up 10 grand to whoever scores the game winning goal or whatever. That's at least the urban legend. This is a money on the board match for Nuno, his return to the London Stadium to take on a Spurs team that he wasn't able to successfully guide to anything
9
substantial.
games, right?
Yeah, it was very ugly. And
they used to call him Noon 1-0 because he would get bodied every match and then win 1-0.
But he's got Forrest playing well. Like, there's no denying that. So, maybe this is just his level, right? He did a good job at Wolves for quite a bit, and now he's looking pretty sound hire for Forrest. Just has that ship at least pointed in the right direction, even with the points deduction. So I think with the way Forrest is going, you should take a serious look at the tricky trees here.
I agree. And I talked about it, very low, deep defensive blocks have given Spurs problems. We saw this early in the season. Palace gave them issues for a majority of a game until that own goal, and then kind of the floodgates opened. I think a first half under is a pretty good look here, but I think very low defensive blocks have been the recipe. If you're not going to just boss Tottenham, and most teams can't do it because they don't have the talent that like City does, then the alternative is to sit very deep. And Forest defensively, yes, they've had their goalie issues, but they have a positive XG difference under Nuno. They had a great result at home against Fulham. And you're just inevitably going to get chances against Tottenham. Structurally, the way that Ange sets this team up, you're going to get opportunities. And Forest as an attack have been pretty poor under Nuno. It's just been, we're just going to shut it down and play low event matches, averaging about 1.25 XG per 90, but only giving up about 1.29 per 90. So playing these super low event style, if you can hold up defensively, you're going to get those chances on the counter. So at plus 1.5, I love Forest. Minus 125 out there. I put it in the app right before we got on recording. I think they're very live to get a result here. And like I said, you're never out of it against Tottenham either because they invite variance. And as a favorite, that can be risky when you're laying, a couple of goals or even a goal late. And that style of play doesn't, when you have an elite team like a Liverpool, you can see like the positive end of that. But when you are not quite at that level and you're playing that style, it does introduce more variance. And I know I would complain if he played the other way too. So you can say that I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I just don't trust this team whatsoever defensively. And I actually think Forest is considerably better defensively overall. So even with Tottenham having the vastly superior attack, they don't really have as many solutions to lower blocks that they've faced this year.
Is Richarlison back?
It's unclear as of now. I would imagine he is not, but
yeah, if he played, I would bet him because
he may. So he's not listed. So I guess yes, he's potentially back here. But
he's such a big Everton fan, so this obviously would help Everton. So back him to score. Okay, Bundesliga and Serie A are the only two other leagues in Europe going this week. What do you got?
Yeah, I've got nothing in France. The league, I ran my numbers and had zero value on anything. And I said, you know what? I'm just not going to do France this week. So the Bundesliga, Bochum has played 13 away matches this year. They have conceded 32 expected goals, allowed 35 goals. That is the worst in the league. We talk about home away splits. They can be noisy, but Bochum has been consistently awful defensively away from home since they joined the league. 2 years ago, they got promoted. 38 expected goals allowed, 35 goals allowed. That was the most in the Bundesliga away from home that year. Last season, they stayed up because of their home form. They gave up 36 expected goals. This is in 17 matches. 40 goals. That was the second worst in the league, ahead of only Hertha Berlin, who was relegated. But again, because of their home form, Bochum stayed in the league. This year, like I said, 13 away matches. They've conceded the most XG in the league on the way away from home. Yet they're going to stay up again because of their home form. They really have an improved attack this year. Direct attacking play has been really good. So now they're playing at Cologne, who is, not quite dead, but damn near drawing dead. The total is only 2.5 over -120. I'm sorry, like Bochum away from home totals should not be at 2.5 unless they're playing Mainz or Union Berlin, and Cologne's defense isn't much better than Bochum's overall. So there are a lot of avenues to this game getting to 3, and I have it close to 3 in my numbers. So over 2.5 -120. Dortmund Stuttgart. Thought the total was going to be 3. We could easily bet the over, but it is 3.5, and that's about where I have it. So I'm going to pass on that game. I lean towards Stuttgart. I think they're worth a shot, but you're not getting a ton of line value on the number. So I will say that's probably going to be it for me in Germany this weekend. I wanted to fade Bayern too, because they're in a spot where the league chase is over. They're down 13 points with 7 matches left. They're at Heidenheim, who's been a sneaky, plucky underdog this year, but the line is crazy. Bayern's only -300. I have it closer to 450. I think the market is saying, hey, Bayern might rotate this weekend because they know that they have the Champions League Tuesday. They really should throw all their eggs in that basket because the league is over. Even still, if you wanted to take a shot, like 6-1, 6 plus 650 on Heidenheim, if Bayern just doesn't care, rolls out like a half-baked team, Heidenheim could pick them off. So the number value sucks relative to what it should be, but the spot, sometimes you just can't adequately price that. So I think Heidenheim's interesting as like a long shot money line dog. They're not the team I'm going to use for the parlay, but they are interesting to me. I think if you just faded Bayern on the money line every match the rest of the Bundesliga season, you probably win a couple, although I haven't looked at the schedule. And it's just because they don't care anymore.
Aaron, anything else for you? You got Juve.
Yeah, I'm going to bet Juve -125 at home against Fiorentina. Both teams played in the Coppa Italia this week. First leg, semifinal. Juve gets an extra day of rest. Juve very quietly 1 win in their last 9 matches in Italy, which is kind of wild. They've had a lot of draws. They've been getting picked off. They've dealt with a bunch of injuries as well. Now they're finally getting healthy. They had their full complement of guys available for the match against Lazio on Tuesday after they lost to Lazio on Saturday rather. Now they're at home against Fiorentina. Fiorentina's like league average and everything. Juventus, as much as they've struggled in the last 2 months, they have been clearly better than Fiorentina this year. So I like them laying the juice -125. I think I have them closer to -160. I think they're clearly the better team and at home. So Juve.
Okay. That brings us to the Underdog Parlay. As I said off the top, 179-1. This thing will come out at. I'll start with BJ's. He likes Nottingham Forest. They are as high as 7-1. Anthony laid out a pretty good reason to bet them, right? Taking on a leaky Spurs defense that can keep any team in a match, and Forest is improving. So if Forest can hang in there and take their chances, they are certainly with a shot, especially at that number. I'm going to go with Brentford. They are 4-1 right now against Aston Villa. A Villa defense is similar to that Spurs Forest handicap, right? Like this is a decent enough defensive side in Brentford, going up a much better, obviously Villa's a much better side. Can they hang on and punish Villa? Villa's defensive foibles, I think that they can. I still believe that Brentford is better than what they're showing. The numbers have dipped, but they're still underperforming compared to their XG quite a bit. So I think that Brentford is still they've still got an upset or two in them down the stretch here. So Brentford for me at 4-1. On to you.
Yeah, you bet against the teams chasing 4th, 5th, 6th. So did BJ. I'm going to bet on Man United. at plus 350 and kind of lean into the variance of the fact that they can exploit Liverpool defensively at home. And yes, like, does Liverpool have a ton of avenues to success? Are they probably going to score goals? Yes, but I think United can go with them. And United's pretty healthy in attack right now. Their defense is awful, but in a high variance matchup, we just saw this 2 weeks ago. You're getting an extra, 40, 50 cents from that match when United did win it. So what's the difference in the market right now? I don't really agree with Liverpool taking all this money. So United money line, crazy to me, but I know I don't like to bet this team very often, but I'm going to bet them here.
Yeah, if you're getting Anthony on board with the Red Devils, it's quite an accomplishment. So that's Brentford, Manchester United, and Nottingham Forest, 179-1. I was close to making Man United my best bet, but I'm going to go with the other Manchester team and go with the total there. I like the under 2.5 at plus 120 against Crystal Palace. I think that this is much more a pencil and paper handicap than anything else. Like, you look at what the situation is for City right now. They're in that title race. Crystal Palace has been a team of horrors for them over the past few years. They're going to look at this with the Champions League right on the other side of the weekend and say, we got to just get in there, get out of there with 3 points by hook or by crook. And I think that the best way to do that would be getting a goal on the board, shutting things down. You're not going to be all that threatened by the Palace attack by the looks of it under Glasner. It's just not started to cook yet. So I think that this game looks very sleepy. I don't mind the 1-0 exact score line to City as well at plus 750. So anything correlated to that, but I'll circle under 2.5 plus 120 is my favorite bet. What about you?
Well, I've won 3 straight unders in the Prem, which is a miracle. I'm going to try to make it 4. Brighton, Arsenal under 3 at even money. Arsenal's attack was cooking early in the January period, February, scoring a ton of goals on really bad defenses. Brighton is not that. Brighton is a top half defense, clearly an improving defense, and it's come at the expense of their attack, which has taken a real tumble. I know Arsenal's defense will travel. I don't know how healthy Arsenal's best attackers are right now, and so for that reason, I like under 3.
There you have it. Another episode of Wondergoal in the books. We will be back again in your ears on Monday morning to preview the upcoming Champions League slate Tuesday and Wednesday. Until then, best of luck with all your bets. For Anthony, I'm Michael. Thank you to our producer, Noah, and thank you for listening.